In the golden age of the Silk Province, there lived a merchant king named Cassian. He was a man who believed that everything and everyone had a price tag. His pride was his Vault of the Sun, a legendary treasury protected by a series of complex gears and locks that only he and his master engineer understood. The master engineer, a humble man named Elias, had a young daughter named Clara. While Elias was a genius of mechanics, Clara was quiet, rarely spoke, and often spent her time playing with scraps of metal in the dirt. To Cassian, Clara was the perfect target for his cruel brand of humor. Every Sunday, when the merchants and nobles gathered at the great square, Cassian would call Clara to his gilded throne. He would hold out two items in his open palms: a gleaming gold eagle coin, worth enough to feed a family for a month; a heavy, rusted iron bolt, salvaged from the city's old, discarded sewer grates. "Tell me, little bird," Cassian would boom, his voice dripping with mock kindness, "which is the prize, the gold that shines like the sun, or the iron that smells of the earth?" Without fail, Clara would reach out her small hand and wrap her fingers around the rusted iron bolt. The air would erupt in laughter. The nobles would clink their wine glasses, mocking Elias. A genius father and a daughter who prefers trash to treasure, they would jeer. Elias would bow his head in shame, his face burning red, while Clara would simply tuck the bolt into her apron and walk away. After 2 years of this, Elias's home was filled with jars of rusted iron bolts. One evening, after a particularly humiliating day at court, Elias sat Clara down. "Clara, my heart breaks for you," he said softly. "The king calls you a fool. The city laughs at our name. You are the daughter of an engineer. You know that 1 gold coin could buy 1,000 of those bolts. Why do you do this? Why do you let them laugh?" Clara looked at her father, her eyes unusually sharp. "Father, do you know why the king plays the game?" "To mock us," Elias sighed. "No," Clara replied. "He plays because he thinks he is winning. For 2 years he has paid a tax of arrogance. If I took the gold even once, the game would end, and he would find a more cruel way to amuse himself. But as long as I take the iron, he feels superior, and while he feels superior, he stays blind." She led her father to her room. She didn't just have jars of bolts, she had a massive map of the city spread across her floor. Every bolt she had taken was tagged with a number. The major twist came during the season of the Great Monsoon. The city was built on a delta, protected by a massive seawall and a system of floodgates. One midnight, the bells rang in panic. The main floodgate, the Titan's Gate, had jammed. The mechanism, the very one Elias and the king had modernized with expensive gold-plated gears, had seized up due to the salt air. The water was rising, and the merchant king's Vault of the Sun was the first thing in the path of the flood. Cassian stood at the gate, screaming at his guards, "Break it open! Use the levers!" "We can't, Your Majesty," the captain cried. "The modern gears are locked. We need the manual override, but those old iron sockets were sealed and abandoned years ago. We don't have the bolts to engage the manual hand cranks." The king turned to Elias, desperate. "Engineer, fix this! My gold is in that vault! The city will drown!" Elias looked at the mechanism. He realized with horror that when the king modernized the city, he had ordered the old iron parts thrown away to make room for prettier machinery. Suddenly, a small wagon pulled by a donkey appeared through the rain. It was Clara. She hopped down, pulling a heavy chest. Inside were hundreds of rusted iron bolts, the very ones the king had given her as a joke. "Do you need these?" Clara asked, her voice calm against the howling wind. "Yes, give them to me." Cassian reached for the chest. Clara stepped back. 2 years ago, you asked me what was more valuable, gold or iron. You laughed when I chose the iron, but tonight your gold is under 10 feet of water and it cannot turn a gear. This trash is the only thing that can save your kingdom." The king fell to his knees. "I will give you half my treasury. Just save the city." Clara shook her head. "I don't want your gold, Cassian. I want a decree. From this day forward, my father is no longer your servant, but the chief architect of the province, with total control over the city's budget. And you will never call another person a fool until you have checked the weight of your own soul." The king signed the decree on a wet piece of parchment right there in the rain. Clara handed over the bolts. Each one fit perfectly into the old manual cranks. With a groan of metal, the gates closed and the water receded. The world often focuses on the sparkle of the moment, but wisdom focuses on the utility of the future. The king was playing a game of status, while Clara was playing a game of survival. Never assume that someone is a fool just because they're not playing your game. They might be playing a much bigger one that you haven't even noticed yet.